Welcome to episode 9 of Author Talk. Today we're diverging from our current series on poetry to interview special guests Joe and Gayle Potelicki. In January of 2025, I was setting up for a writing workshop at a library in Navarre, Ohio. As I was getting prepared, a man walked over and introduced himself as Joe Potelicki. Joe told me he'd seen an ad in the local paper that stated I'd be at the library that day presenting a writing seminar. He said he came to the library specifically to talk with me on behalf of his longtime friend, William Bill McDonald. He explained that Bill had written a manuscript about his service in the Marines during the Korean War and about his incredible and surprising love story. He also told me that Bill had sadly passed away before completing his manuscript and seeing his dream of having the story published come to pass. Joe asked if I'd read the manuscript and if I found it interesting, consider finishing it on Bill's behalf. I did read it, and I communicated to Joe my strong feeling that Bill's story needed to be told. During this process, Joe and his wife Gayle decided that rather than finishing Bill's first-person narrative, I'd take the facts of Bill's story and turn them into a biographical fiction novel. This type of novel is one that takes real-life events and enhances those events with fictional elements such as dialogue, settings, and added emotion. In December of 2025, a Marine story of war and enduring love was published, fulfilling Bill's dream to have his love story and the challenges that love faced known to the world. Bill's story is one of perseverance and determination, and it's a declaration that when forces try to stand against it, love can triumph. Today, with Bill's dear friends Joe and Gayle, we're going to discuss Bill's life and how the publishing of a Marine story of war and enduring love came to fruition. So let's welcome Joe and Gayle. So welcome, Joe and Gayle. How are you guys today?
Hi, real good.
We're doing great. Thank you for having us on.
Well, thank you for being here. So to get started, tell our viewers a little bit about yourselves, how long you've been married, your careers, your family, that kind of thing.
Joe and I met through a friend. We didn't know each other. She put us together. He lived on the east side of Cleveland. I lived on the west side. And neither one of us were interested in even dating. But we met and ended up getting married a year later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he took on 2 teenagers that were strong individuals, and it's hard to find a man that'll do that, so I'm grateful for that. I was a nurse at the time, and we both moved into my condo, and then we moved into an area in Cleveland Heights. And we went through Joe was a social worker at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided to make a life change and moved down to Zor and bought a home that we decided to make a bed and breakfast out of. And we've been here it'll be 17 years this spring. So,
wow. So Joe, how many years did you and Gayle operate the bed and breakfast?
12 years.
12 years.
Mhm.
12 years.
Our-
Okay.
And Gail's daughter moved back from South Dakota and needed a place to stay. She had 2 teenage boys, and so they moved in, stayed for just about a year, and then she got a house and moved out. But then at that point, since we had closed the bed and breakfast for almost a year, and Gayle decided she just didn't want to continue it on anymore. Without her, we wouldn't have had a B&B, because she's the chef, bottle washer, whatever they call it.
And the maid and everything.
You were the bottle washer.
That's true. I lifted heavy things.
Yeah.
That's right. That's your job as the man.
Yeah, I mean, she had a 5-star review on Google. We got their Excellence Award all the time.
Wow, that's awesome.
TripAdvisor.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, it was a good cat.
So, Joe, tell us how you first met Bill McDonald and how that friendship developed.
Yeah, it was interesting. As Gayle mentioned, I was a social worker, but at that time I had just worked towards getting into insurance and life insurance and annuities, and so I was working for an estate planning firm in Canton, and he came in and he wanted to set up his estate because he was concerned about if he were to pass away before his wife, because she had a stroke, that she'd be taken care of. And when we had completed everything he wanted to do, I mentioned to him that I was a healthcare social worker, and if he ever needed any kind of help, give me a call. I'd be glad to talk to him and maybe give him some guidance if he needed it. And he so he did periodically, or I would meet him then up at the firm again when he would come in to make some change or something like that. But and actually, he came to the house here once because he wanted to do something with some paperwork. So it was nice because Gayle got to meet his wife, and we sat on the porch, and she had a hard time getting on the porch because she had had that stroke for over 10 years at that point. And she really liked flowers. That was really a big important thing to her. Gardens,
yeah.
And so she appreciated the garden that Gayle had and all the flowers, and it was very nice, And then he, after she had passed away, well, even before that, as things were getting a little bit more difficult for him, he would call, and he reached a point where he said, I just can't do this anymore. And I told him, well, here's some options. And so actually he did move into a facility with her down in our area here. And he was in the nursing part because she was getting more and more sick, and he was in an independent living apartment there, so he could be near. So he spent every single day with her at her bedside, very dedicated. And so as things went on and kept changing, then I would help him more. And then once she passed away, he did okay. But then he started to reach a point where he was telling me, there was things he just couldn't do anymore that he wanted me to do. So I was doing things for him, and one thing led to another as he declined, and we got him into an assisted living near us here because he was still up in Canton. At one point, he had gone all the way up to Doylestown. That was not good. So
that's long way away.
Yeah, and he didn't stay there very long. Came back down to this area, but it was in late summer, August, when he moved into the facility here in Dover, and by November he passed away. So it was a fast decline, but we along the way just became very good friends, very close. He had qualities that I could appreciate right away. The fact that he was a veteran was really interesting to me. Just really intelligent, and I learned a lot from him just by conversation, and he was just almost, I would say, like the grandfather that I never had, because when I was born, my grandparents had passed away prior to me being born, so we had that kind of relationship.
And we all went out to lunch a lot. He started wanting us to meet with him and go into his apartment in Canton. And that was even before he came down here. And he always opened the door for me and rushed. He could hardly walk, and he'd rush ahead so he could, assist me. He was
a true gentleman.
Very, very much
gentleman.
And very loving. One time we had him over for dinner here, and I tried to make him a special dinner that he would like. And he came up to the back porch. Joe had to help him up onto the porch, and he was holding a dozen red roses for me.
My goodness.
Yeah, that's the kind of guy he was. So
yeah, very genuine.
Right.
Yeah, very, very.
That was very generous of you both to bring him into your life and to care for him like that. There aren't many people that would do something like that.
Yeah, he just didn't have any family. And when he reached a point where it was clear that we even said, I don't know what he would do, because he couldn't really handle things anymore on his own. I was his care at the apartment. We had an aide come in and help him before he even moved down here. Because where he was, it was independent living. So if you wanted help, you had to go out and get it. And so I was coordinating that for him, taking him to the doctor. It was always entertaining. There's something about being with him. that I just really enjoyed, it really did.
Yeah. No matter what, it was, it was a struggle. He was struggling to use the computer and, the TV, but there was never any anger or, obstinate. He just, welcomed, he wanted us there a lot and was always very appreciative of it. And I think, under those circumstances, so many people that as they start to progress down, they become angry and rejecting you. And he was the exact opposite. So it wasn't difficult. It wasn't.
Well, that's a beautiful thing when someone can accept, difficult circumstances and still be joyful and grateful. So, Gayle, what was your first impression when you met Bill? What was your first impression of him?
I just liked him. The first time he came over here, he was without his wife. Actually, the first couple times. And I had just gotten done making some scones or cookies. And, he was just always tickled by anything. And he was a real ladies' man, too. As much as he loved his wife and she was his world. He still put that out to other people, whether, I don't know, with men, how he
charming. Yes. Probably charming.
He was very charming and, a gentleman to the core. Yeah.
Right. So, right.
My impression was that really, I just enjoyed him and, it was a pleasure to be around him.
Yeah. And he saw, having, written the book and read his manuscript, he did very much have a romantic side. So I can see that, how that would come out as charming with other people.
Yeah. Very sentimental.
Yeah, that's true. Very, very sentimental.
He did love women. I mean, he did really have a special affection, and I mean that in a very respectful way.
Right. Well, I think that ties back to his mother because in the manuscript, he talked about the difficulties his mother had in her marriage to his father and how he would have never treated a woman the way his father treated his mom and that he always cherished his mom. So that's probably why he was very respectful of women.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, Joe, I told our viewers in the intro that you introduced yourself to me at the library when I was getting ready to do that writing workshop and asked me if I would read Bill's manuscript and, possibly finish it if I was interested in it. Yeah. Did you have any apprehension that I would just say no, like flat out no and not consider it?
Well, of course, I didn't know you, and I looked up, some of the books that you'd written, and I just felt that, you were more mature, and I just felt it took that kind of an author, first of all, and I think it needed a woman's touch, an interpretation of that manuscript. I think was so taken with the story because he had told me these stories, but then he put it all into the manuscript. And then when I read the manuscript, I just kept telling Gayle, this is a great story. This is just a great story. So coming into you, I felt confident that I could really maybe, I hate to use the word sell, but I guess what I had to do was sell it to you, I felt. And I wouldn't say that I wouldn't leave if you refused, but I was still going to try and talk you into it, and unfortunately, I think because you just wanted me to go away and you had a class you wanted to teach, but you said, okay, can you send me the manuscript? Do you have it? And I said I would. And you read it. And I was hoping that you would take to it. And I think it took a couple weeks, and I heard back from you. So, and then we were off and running.
Right. And so you're right. It took a few weeks for me to read it and get back to you. And, but then, I would send you chapter by chapter as I wrote it. And it took almost a year, not quite a year.
It did. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think, for writing a book, that can be rather quick. But I think, it was expedited by the fact that we obviously had Bill's manuscript. It was his story. So we had the meat of the story. It was just putting those added touches to it, the dialogue and the emotion and all that kind of thing. So I posed this question to you in an email. Would you rather me continue Bill's first-person narrative or make it into a novel? And you both decided you wanted it made into a novel. So what factors went into that decision for you guys?
I felt that first person was really important. So Bill's words would speak through you. When I was hoping that when you wrote it, somehow you would be able to bring that out, what he had written, for it to come as though they were his words. And, I'm grateful. I think you did that,
Well,
I think also it helped create scenes because you were like telling people or influencing the scene by explaining it. The way that he said this or he did that or he felt this way really helped move the story into more emotion.
Right.
And the beauty of his experiences too. You brought that out.
Just those internal feelings on both his part and his wife's part. So, and another example, this is biographical fiction. So it's, as I explained in the introduction, it's taking real life events and adding dialogue and settings, emotion, that kind of thing. And so an example of that was, Bill said that they went to a park. And so I researched that area of Japan and then, found the parks in that area and added that setting. So, for those who are watching and not really certain how biographical fiction, that's how it works. That's how it works. You just enhance it. You take real life events and enhance it. So,
and it really needed, that's what it really needed. And you did a beautiful job of doing that.
Right. Thank you. So, to both of you, I guess this question, do you feel that the completed novel is true to Bill's character? His real life personality?
Yeah, I do. I definitely do, because it covered so many different emotions and put him in so many different situations where I think by knowing him like I did is exactly how he would have reacted or what he was feeling. And that's what really brought the story to life and raised it up to another level. And it is. When I feel confident that whoever reads that book will go away knowing Bill McDonald and what he was all about,
Good.
And not just on the surface, but down deep as well. So, and I would probably think that's what he wanted people to know as well.
He was very self-directed, and he was very black and white on what's right and what's wrong. And I think that came in the book too.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, he was always dedicated, loyal. Those were characteristics of him that were clearly visible. And as you read through the story, they came to the surface. You could pick all that up, and as well as his other qualities too. I mean, he was steadfast in what he believed, like Gayle was just alluding to, and all that made him.
Right. And I feel like he, having read his manuscript, I feel like he had those characters before he went in the Marines, before he joined the Marines in 1952. But probably his training there, the camaraderie, with his fellow Marines probably cemented a lot of those qualities in him too.
Yeah, and I think he had leadership qualities.
Definitely.
And I think that came out, and I think it really gave him an opportunity to grow that leadership ability that he had as a staff sergeant, and having people underneath him, having to make decisions, and realizing some of these decisions wrote on people's lives.
Yes.
And so that was not an easy thing to just not pay close attention to and take responsibility for.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he told me, I'm sorry, you wanted to say.
Well, I was going to say, even he told us stories about when he was a child and how he tried to help his brothers and sisters and help his mother, and one
yes.
story about getting his sister medicine. So, I mean, I think that was always deep inside of him, even as a child, and it just grew from there.
Mm.
Right. I felt that too. I didn't know that specific story, Gayle, but just the protectiveness he had for his mother and his sisters, and how that followed him, was part of his character all throughout his life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Joe and Gayle, you can speak to this as well. Did Bill enjoy being a Marine?
I think he did. I don't know that he necessarily wanted to be there as long as he was, but as people would find out in this story, why. But I think overall he did. I think he was ready to move on and take with him what he had learned there. But yeah, I think he would give it a positive grade, just because I know how he felt so strongly about it afterwards. He always wore a Marine Corps hat, and he had shirts and things like that. I even bought him a couple, and he always was thrilled to get anything related to the Marines. And this is interesting because someone had asked him that once when I was with him, but you must have really liked being in the Marine Corps. And he said, it wasn't so much necessarily that I liked it, but it was what it did for me in my life and what it brought to me. So.
And I know that, in the opening of his manuscript, he described himself as a little shrimp of a kid. Yeah. And then he went through basic training, and I think he gained like 20 pounds and
grew taller.
Yeah, grew so many inches, and just, so it was very transformative in many ways, not just physically, but, emotionally, mentally, all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And one scene that really stuck out to me, and I've repeated this to a lot of people, is when you talk, Joe, about the responsibility he bore when he was in the Marine Corps, how he would be flying on the plane and have to be a lookout when they were flying over the mountains of Korea, and that the soldiers in Korea would put steel lines across the mountaintops. And so if you went too low, it would slice the plane in half.
That's right.
So that was a huge responsibility on his shoulders.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he had excellent eyesight. I think that was one of the reasons why they had him doing that. And those planes they weren't necessarily armed, because those were planes carrying soldiers, material, and things like that. They didn't have an escort either. So it's very dangerous what he was doing.
Very dangerous.
And they would get shot at, and he would tell me bullet holes in the plane, when he would come back from those missions. So it was.
And one of the things they did as well was to bring back soldiers who had lost their lives in battle.
That's right. We were in a restaurant once, and of course he had his Marine hat on, and the owner of the restaurant came over and asked him, when were you in the Marines? And said it was in the Korean War. And this gentleman said he was in the Army. And Bill said to him, well, we all get paid the same. He said, so, I respect that. He said, but the one thing about the Army that bothered me, he said, was they didn't go back and go after and pick up their dead. The Marines always did that. No man left behind. And he told him there was a time, and he had told me about this before too, that they were picking up frozen bodies from Army soldiers that were frozen solid, that they were stacking these bodies to take them back. And the Army wasn't doing that. The Marines went to do that with that, for an example, with that plane he was on. So a little bit of a gruesome story, but poignant to what he was trying to convey. That
definitely poignant, and so much honor in that, in doing that kind of thing. And you think so many of those men experience things like that, and how deeply it must have impacted their lives. But they went on and lived and had careers, but I'm sure that always stayed with them. And obviously it did with Bill, because he talked about his experience a lot.
It was probably good that he could talk about it. Maybe these things, I think that helped him maybe reconcile those things within himself.
Right.
But still, like you said, it's not something you ever forget. And you could read about it or you could hear about it, but to actually be there and experience it hands-on is a whole different world.
Stays with you. Right. So in the opening of the book, Bill joins the Marines because he's trying to catch the eye of a particular young woman. And he is just, I don't think obsessed is too light of a word. He was obsessed with this young woman. And, the story then plays out with his experience and, boot camp and going to Japan and that kind of thing. So do you both think that readers will be surprised by the outcome of Bill's love story?
I hope that they are. I read a lot of books, and I've read a lot of love stories. I remember when I was a girl, I read a story in the 3rd grade, and I still remember it as though I read it yesterday. And let me just say this. I think that you made that story like that book sat with me. So whether someone's really surprised or not, because I think everyone makes up their mind how the book's going to end. And, you all have preconceived notions. But I think if people get out of it what I got out of that book when I was a child, that's what I'm hoping for. So surprises, that's so individual, but a benefit. Yeah, I think that book will help people, especially young readers that are just starting to discover love in life.
Right.
So
well,
it's a
thank you
from what your question was, but I just can't, that's my answer to that.
Well, that's a wonderful answer. And I mean, thank you for that. I hope it does sit with readers like it sat with you and is memorable. And I think what you said about young people who read it, and what it has to say about love, it's not a flighty love. It was a rock solid love, and it endured throughout a lifetime. And hopefully young people will see you can face challenges together and overcome them like Joe and his wife did. So
Bill. Yeah.
Joe. I said Joe. Yes.
Although we've had a few.
I'm surprised I haven't done it before now. Anyway, so go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
The story, I think, is timeless, too. It may be set in a different era, for sure, a few generations back. But you can apply it to any generation at any time. The element of it, the real foundation of it is timeless.
I agree. Absolutely. So I'm going to hold up the book here. This is the cover, A Marine Story of War and Enduring Love. And the woman on the cover is facing away. And we just did a radio interview with WTAM 1100 out of Cleveland and mentioned that, that was intentional, that the woman is facing away, because there are 2 women in the story. And, as I was talking about with Gayle, who does Bill end up with? What is this great love story? And so I just want to give a shout out to my son, Conrad, who designed the cover. So he did a great job with that. Okay. So Joe, tell the viewers where they can find the book.
Well,
where they can purchase it.
Right. Currently, it's on Amazon, and it'll be in some local bookstores soon. And we're also looking towards Walmart and maybe Barnes and Noble as well. So it's going to be a gradual increase in bringing it more and more out. As we go through some of the opportunities that are out there in book signings that we're arranging right now.
Right, and you've set up quite a few speaking events at senior centers and things with veterans and things like that, and so people will also be able to purchase it there. And then, like you said, hopefully get it on a wholesale situation where it can be in stores like Barnes and Noble, Walmart, Target, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, and I also... Go ahead, Gayle. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, but primarily right now it's on Amazon.
Yes. Yep. You can get it on Amazon in both paperback and Kindle. And if you have a subscription to Kindle Unlimited, it's available on there as well. So to finish up, before we finish up, I just want to say that the book does have a Facebook page. So if you type in A Marine Story of War and Enduring Love on the Facebook search bar, it does have its own page. So if you want to follow that and see where we'll be as far as speaking events and book signings, that would be wonderful. But to finish up, Joe and Gayle, what are your hopes for Bill's story for the future?
Well, I think it's such a great message. I hope it can be read by as many people as possible. And they tell each other, because like Gayle said, maybe that resonated with them, and maybe it will for even times to come. So that would be, I think, what I hope happens with it. I know we talked about the possibility of it even maybe emerging to the point where it could be a play or a movie, and I believe that it would make a very good play or movie.
Right.
When I got done reading it, I thought, this is a Hallmark movie. I really did.
But with even a little bit more to it, even a little bit more depth. And it's true.
Right.
It's true. And the human spirit in it is, I think, amazing.
It is, absolutely. And on the Facebook page, there's kind of a banner that says A Love Story for the Ages. And I honestly feel that it's one of those great love stories, that happened in time, and there were so many challenges that Bill faced to be with the woman he loved, and he made so many sacrifices to see that happen. So it's just an amazing story, and to me, it is a love story for the ages.
Yeah, it really is. I hope everyone can have the opportunity to appreciate it.
I do as well. So do you guys have any closing thoughts before we end, as far as what, maybe Bill would think of all of this happening?
Oh, he'd be excited. He would be beside himself. He wanted to finish that manuscript, and he tried so hard to finish it, but he just didn't have the capability to do it. So if he's up there and he knows, he's dancing.
You would be his hero, let me tell you that.
Well, that means so much to me. And, I said on the radio interview, it was just a joy to bring his story to life. And because it touched me, like you said, Gayle, it touched me so deeply reading it. And I did want to honor, his life and his memory and his love story. So that makes me very happy that you think he'd be thrilled by it.
Oh, beside himself.
Good.
And I just, and we've heard a lot, because, both of you being women, how much you appreciated that. But I think there's plenty in that book for men to appreciate as well. And maybe also get a very maybe different approach and a different understanding about relationships, and it can be helpful from that perspective too. Just put things in perspective.
What did Bloom Daddy say to you about the interview on the radio when he read the book?
Yeah, when he called me to have us come on his show, he said, "I read the book and I loved it. I think it's great." And him, obviously, he's a man,
right?
And, he wasn't afraid to express what he thought about it. Obviously, he wanted us to talk more about it. So
right. Yeah, I think that's great. And you're talking about David Bloomquist, who goes by Bloom Daddy on the WTAM 1100 radio. So you're right. He's a man and he enjoyed it. And I think, there are scenes in there like the flight over the mountains and the tension there, lives were at stake as Bill was the lookout there. And when they go into Korea with the supplies, and just also the inner machinations, the politics of the Marine Corps, and coming up against Bill and wanting to be with the woman he loved. And so I think, too, that would appeal to men to see the inner workings of the Marine Corps during that era. I'm sure things have changed, but, what Bill faced during that era.
Yeah, and Bill was no shrinking violet, so I think any man appreciate, his fortitude and his ability to make a point when he needed to. So there's two sides to him: a soft side, a tough side, understanding side, very intelligent. So
one thing that was really important to Bill was the USO, and that's another key thing with the book. He really and his wife wanted to have some way to pay back the USO for all the help that they gave them. And this book is going to be able to do that with its sales.
Right. Thank you for bringing that up, Gayle, because a portion of the proceeds of each sale of each book will be donated to the USO on Bill's behalf. So thank you for mentioning that. That's really important.
Yeah.
That was very important to him. And as people read the book, they'll understand why.
Exactly why they were so significant in helping him. Well, we'll wrap up now, but thank you, Joe and Gayle, for being with me and talking about the life of Bill McDonald, and, just thank you for making me a part of this and bringing his love story to life. So take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you,
Thank
Debbie.
you.
Okay. Take care. Bye.